Hi Chris, how are you?
Yeah, good evening, Rod. Here we are. We're recording episode 239, which is going to be a pre-record, so there's going to be no news, no follow-up. It's not our usual sort of style because both of us kind of away, and it was getting tricky to try and line one up. And I'm not sure there's going to be any news. Like, it doesn't feel like there's much news. The betas are quite. We haven't really talked about the iOS, macOS betas lately, even though I'm loving them and you're less fussed. But I think let's dive into it. We're going to talk about an app. I've released an app a couple of weeks ago, and we said, why don't we do a show? And I'll just talk through it. It's probably going to be like a half an hour slot. You can ask questions, obviously, as we go. And just how do you actually get an idea out the door and into a shippable product that people at will can download or not, depending on whether it works or not. So that's the premise of the show.
I think it's a fascinating one because you've actually taken something that you and I have talked about repeatedly about how do you go from beginning to end of idea to development to, segues, storyboarding, all that kind of stuff, to actually releasing and going through the machinery of the App Store for what you need to do to get an app released. And I've done TestFlight, so I've done all that kind of stuff, both before vibe coding and after vibe coding, but never got as far as actually pushing the button and releasing the app.
Yeah, and same as you, last year I had quite a concentrated effort building a game based upon the binary game where you put noughts and ones into a grid, and I got quite far with that, and that was all me coding it. Didn't use any AI really for help. Obviously used Google to help and get me there, but I never launched it because, and we'll probably touch on that, it's very easy coming up with a prototype, something that you can play with. It's something else to knock it into shape that can be downloaded by somebody you've never met. You're never going to be able to explain to them how it works, and they can get up and running with it without too much effort, I guess, from your side. So that's the premise, isn't it, I guess? So why don't I dive in? So I've had an idea for an app just rattling in my head, and it's a game. What we're going to talk about is a game, but I've actually gone away and coded various apps that I've wanted for myself, which I've really enjoyed. I've generally enjoyed the process of doing it and the iteration of it. And I think that's the key, iteration. That's what I've learned, it's the key. So my app idea was a very simple game, 4x4 grid. You start with some letters, and you start off with like A's, and you swipe, and you merge, and when you get two A's next to each other and you swipe, they become a B. You get two B's together, they become a C. But the whole board moves as you swipe. So you might get two A's slide into one, but you might have an E and an F next to each other. They can't merge together. And so it's that mechanic which you've seen in other games like 20, 48 and threes. And I like that kind of game. I like trying to think about it. Really enjoyed it. So that's what I came up with. And I thought that would be a good idea for a game. It should be easy to make a very basic prototype. So my original prompt was around what I've just described, 4x4 grid, this is what I want to do. And it went off and it coded something up, and it kind of worked straight away. It's a very rough, just you opened it and it worked. And then we iterated on it, and then I was like, and this is the key for me, I think, rather than having one really big prompt, let's get something working, let's try it, let's play with it, iterate it. And I think that's why I think my game works for a user, because I've played it so much, I've iterated on it. I haven't just coded it all in one big prompt and then published it to the App Store. I've really played it and tried to break it, tried it on different things. So that's the basic of the game. But at the time that I started making this game, I was not a Claude Pro person. I was just an AI skeptic, I think. Like, it can't be that good. Surely it will do a little bit of coding, but it's not really that good. And then I've really built my comfort with it. And we talked about this on last week's episode of, we do get comfortable with things and we get more blasé about what we allow it to do. So in Xcode, and I'm using Xcode 27, which is a pre-release version, but you can do this in Xcode 26.3, which came out earlier this year, and that supports this style of coding. So I'm using Xcode. The 27 version seems better, and way better how they've really learned into this style of coding where you're vibe coding, and the feedback it gives, the code it shows you. What's really blown my mind though is you start off building the app and you give it the initial prompt of, I want to make this game, I want you to go straight into the game screen, I want the grid to be 4x4, we aim to get to Z, show congratulations screens, etc. What it's really good at though is detailing what it's doing, and it gives you lots of feedback. So then when you go, let's put a pause button in there and it should pop up a menu, it will ask you questions. Do you want to do it like this? Do you want to do it like that? How do you want to do this? Have you thought about that? Oh, by the way, I've done this. You may not like this change, but I'm doing this. And it really talks to you as if it's a developer. Probably talks to you more than a developer if you're working in the same office. So that's where we've gone with it. And to do this, I've been using Claude Code because it's had good reviews. You could use OpenAI's Codex, I'm sure, and there'll be others out there. So I've gone for Claude Code, but you do need to pay for a subscription. Now, I started off with approximately £18 a month subscription, which is their pro tier. And that got me a long way. That got me going quite quickly. But because I started coding multiple apps at once, I then had to up it to their max tier, which is about £90 a month. And I've done that for a couple of months now, and I'm hoping I'm going to drop it back down again. Now I'm going to use it less. So I think actually it's dropped. It's now down to £15 a month. So that's not too bad.
No, it's still 18.
Oh, okay. Oh, sorry, it's 15 if you pay annually, and it's 18 if you pay monthly. So that's the tier I started on. And like I say, I was just prompting it, and they've got a very good usage graph, and you can see when your tokens reset. So you get a week, and then you get 4-hour bursts within the week to use them up. Just really straightforward. I'm just using it within Xcode, not really doing anything else with it. You do need to be careful because sometimes it does pop up and go, can I have access to your network shares? I said no, but it does ask you when it's doing more deeper commands, it does ask you to approve access, and you can approve it permanently or you can approve it one at a time. So that's what we've been doing. So that's got us up and running. Got a prototype. We've done lots of testing. So I'm playing this game, back and forth, prompting. I asked it to make it look glassy, make the tiles look good. And then I was like, why don't we have a background that just changes subtly while you're playing the game? You don't even notice it's happening, but the colour of the background changes. All nice and subtle. And then I introduced things, why don't we have different coloured tiles? So we had some different tile sets and a serif font as well as a sans serif font. And then I found an old iPhone 12, which I've got somewhere here, which is chipped and broken. It's been well used. But this is one of the slowest phones that will run the current iOS. And I'm aiming for iOS 26. I debated going back to 18, but I thought with 27 coming out, let's try and tighten the niche of what I've got to support. So I put it on this phone, and it was slow. It was so slow. Just moving the tiles was slow, and the way they merged together in the animations. So I'm really glad I did that, because I wouldn't have known that if I hadn't have tested it. So I spent a long time playing it on an old iPhone, just to make sure it works, it performs, and like I say, the way the tiles animate into each other, so you get two A's to get a B. I wanted to make sure that was good. And we got that up and running. And actually I did a lot of this while I was on holiday, and we had some friends with us, and they wanted to play it. So I then got it working so I could share it with them, and they could test it and give me their feedback. And I think that was the valuable bit of, as much as Claude helped me get the app up and running, did various tests, it's nothing like actually a human playing it, because that's your target audience, and giving you their honest feedback of, it's quick, it's boring, it's slow, it's hard, it doesn't work, I don't like this, why do you? And that's where a lot of the ideas came from for future development, such as having different types of games, because they were things I hadn't thought of. And I've had that with you when I've been writing other apps. You'll go, well, why don't you do playlists in your music app? And I was like, well, I don't really like playlists, but you like playlists, and my son likes playlists. And I was like, actually, that's a good idea. I'll do playlists. So that's where we got to with it. So iPhone 12 was definitely really worth testing. Like, that real world testing is probably the biggest thing that I haven't automated, and I think makes the game better, because it's been played by humans repeatedly to try and break every level, and to make sure the mechanics work. So next up then, the bit I didn't use Claude for was any of the artwork, and any of the sort of outwardly style and the assets I need. So I used our friend Pixelmator Pro. I have paid for a subscription for a couple of months, which is about $12 a month. I started with the free trial. I'm not sure how much I'm going to keep it, because I've got a fully licensed version on my Mac, one that I bought years ago from Pixelmator, and I don't need the monthly license. And for my abilities, it's fine. So Pixelmator Pro has been really helpful, because I had to create icons, make screenshots, and various other bits. And only when you do screenshots, they need to be a 6.5 inch screen size, which is the iPhone Air screen size. It's an odd screen size for them to pick. And that's the one, if you upload those screenshots, it will apply it to all the different shapes and size phones where you see previews for. So that was, again, a learning curve. So I had to make them all pixel perfect. So I've done that. It does make you think, should I charge my phone? What do I want the top bar to look like that's going to appear in all the screenshots I submit? And then what I've got to do further with the screenshots is probably add words to them and make them more interesting, because at the moment it's just screenshots of the game. And you actually, when you go to the App Store now, it's not just screenshots that you're getting a screenshot in there, but with words around it, or they're trying to sell you, aren't they? And that marketing piece. So that's something we can pick up at the end. But to make the icons, Apple have released an app called Icon Composer, because as we've seen in more recent versions of iOS, icons have changed. They all look a little bit similar, and they're not flat icons like they used to be for you and I. They're now what they call like a recipe, where you put the basics in and it will apply different lighting to it, different colours, depending on what the user picks, whether they pick tinted, whether they pick dark. And you can basically just drag this icon file into your app, and then it will just work basically, and it does all the icons for you. Apple don't make this obvious, and it took me a while to learn this, but it makes it so much easier. So I've done that. I've made the icon that I wanted with a bit of copying things out of Pixelmator and FF symbols. What is really good, you can just take a symbol out of SF symbols, which is Apple's symbols library, paste it into the icon composer, give it a gradient, make the symbol look okay, and you've got a rough icon, which I think is really good. So you don't have naff beta icons anymore. You can make a really simple icon with barely any skill, which I think is quite cool, just to get you up and running.
I mean, I've got issues with Apple's icons at the moment, because I think Squircle Jail is terrible. I think we've lost. You might have new insight. It's interesting. It was interesting scrolling through the icon composer thing. That's the most I've looked at icons in ages. And obviously, they spend a lot of time thinking about the transparencies and layers and specular highlights and refractions and all the other things that go into these things. But there's some really nice, quirky icons that I think we've lost as a consequence of being forced into this format, and I still don't like it. It's funny, I installed the beta on my phone, and you're like, aren't you enjoying the new icons? And I hadn't even noticed. I do notice crap icons that don't look as good as they used to. They don't have the character that they used to have. They might have more detail on the icon, but I don't think icons look as good as they used to do once upon a time.
I wouldn't disagree with that statement. I think it's easy these days to make a basic icon. And it's, as I said earlier, it's very easy to prototype an app. So you can get to a point where you've got something that works for you very easily now with AI and with the icon composer. That world is great just to get prototypes out the door. So you can waste no time getting a prototype. But I would agree with you if you want to give it some character. And look, the app I've made is called Zed. The icon is a giant Z, because it was something I could easily make, and it looks okay, and it goes with the game because it's all about letters. But where I really struggle with making an icon is trying to do anything remotely good. That's just not my skill set. And so that's where I would consider paying somebody to make it. If I had an app that I really wanted to push and sell, I think there is value to be had in that, and that is a skill that I don't think these generated tools are very good at the moment. Is that going to change? Possibly. So anyway, I made the icon. That was really the only major asset I needed. Nearly all of the game is all rendered in Swift and is vectorized, so all very simple. So we got the game up and running. We got it then into TestFlight. So TestFlight is Apple's system that's on your Apple TV, it's on your Mac, it's on your iPad, it's on your iPhone, probably on your watch, probably on your Vision Pro, and it's a way that you can send to your friends and family or people you meet on the internet a way for them to come into your beta for your app, and then they can log into that and then download the beta version of the app and play it and test it, and you get some stats back. You can see crashes, you can send them updates to it. So once they're enrolled, it's a very easy way then for you to publish an update out. But before the app goes into TestFlight for external people, so for yourself, you can use TestFlight and it's internal, and Apple don't really have to test it. But as soon as you go external, they have to test it and validate it, and that takes days at the moment just to get a beta out. So I've submitted one this morning. It probably won't be ready for 2 days because I'm waiting for Apple to release it.
So listening to Marco on ATP last week, he said it was like 15 days before his new app was actually released in the App Store. He'd scheduled it, he'd spoken to the marketing people, he had an advertising campaign paid for and all the rest of it. And what people are saying is that the influx of vibe-coded apps is absolutely having an impact on the App Store, and I have zero sympathy for that. That you are allowing people to use vibe coding tools within Xcode, sort out your release program.
Yeah, I know. I think, and I'll detail my experience in a minute when I was going live with it, but getting it just into TestFlight for external testers just take too long. I'm amazed they've not got more AI at their end to do the basic checking, because you wait a couple of days, you get feedback. It's like, you're not doing this thing. It's like, surely you could have told me that way earlier in this process with a cursory glance. So TestFlight is quite good though as a platform. It's just the manual approval list, and I agree with you. Apple are fully supporting this. They've made their bed, but they weren't prepared for it, I think. And whether they're dealing with it, I don't know. My experience hasn't been as bad as Marco's, which is odd because he surely knows what he's doing, because you do have to submit your app and various other assets with it at the same time. So I got it all up and running on TestFlight. I've sent it to you, obviously had it, and friends and family, just to try it out and get their feedback. And that's where I learnt loads, because people played it and they're like, why don't you put some different game modes in? Why don't you have a 3x3 grid? And I hadn't really thought about that before. And that's where having different coloured tiles came in. And then why don't we have some sounds when the tiles move? Why don't you have some background music? So we've added all of that. Haptics got added as well, which again wasn't something I'd thought about. But it came from that testing. So for me, that end user testing has been invaluable. We've also added in daily puzzles. So every day there's a new puzzle to do, and it would just start you somewhere random in the alphabet with some random tiles. And the tiles are usually within 5 or 6 of each other. So you don't have A's and Z's on the board usually. So it does work from that, because the board does get filled up quite quickly. And then we've got unlocks in there. So once you do easy to M, it unlocks the short game. Once you finish easy, it unlocks medium, and so on and so forth. So that's been quite good. But all feedback. So I think what I'm trying to say is use it. All the apps I've made, I've used and used and used, and they've changed masses because I've used them every day. So yeah, that was testing. The TestFlight's okay. You get a bit of data from it of how many sessions people have they had crashes, installs, that kind of thing. But to submit one for external testing, you can't use the beta version of Xcode. You have to go back and use Xcode 26, which you can't install on a Mac running macOS 27. So you have to find your Mac with 26 on. And you've made me keep my Mac with 26 on. So I could, whilst I was away, I could dial into my Mac, upload the app to my NAS, copy it onto my Mac, you have to edit a file so that it's compatible with the older version of Xcode in BBEdit, which we've spoken about before. And then I could then submit it to the App Store through Xcode 26. That's how I had to get the beta just out to people, and then wait, obviously, for Apple to approve it.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite an involved process, isn't it? And aren't you really glad I made you keep that Mac? Not just for the purposes of podcasting, but it's your development machine, Chris. So, pat on the back to Rod.
It's my post-external betas machine, because my development's all happening on Mac OS on my MacBook over there. I'd rather do it on my Mac Mini because it's much quicker. It's got a much better chip in it. But there's all these steps you have to go through. So I think where I have built apps in the past, even though I've not released them to the public, up to this point, I already had quite a lot of this knowledge and I knew what I was doing. And I think that's helped massively. Certainly helped me control the build numbers and iterations and different versions I was submitting to people, and then I was coding some more. So that's helped massively, just my general understanding and being a programmer. Sometimes I wonder, does that hold you back? Because you know how hard something is and you're perhaps overthinking it, whereas if I didn't know how hard it was, would I just tell it to crack on and see what Claude came back with? By the way, on that, Claude is quite good for asking ideas from. I've had it go through, can you go through the code and make it quicker? Can you go through the code and look for any bugs? And it is good just to prompt it those open questions from time to time and see what it comes back with. And it does use the latest Fable engine as well, which is really good. So that's where I've got to at the moment. So we're at the point pre sort of get it through the App Store. What do you think?
I mean, it's obviously more rapidly enabled you to prototype what's going on, and the fact that you can deal with some of the drudgery of coding. Why isn't this running? What's going on with this? My experience of using Claude to work with Xcode directly was it didn't seem to have the most up-to-date models of how to deal with the new APIs that had just been dropped. And
that's been challenging.
There was a lot of fighting with that you're like, and it would have to code around that almost. Oh, this is deprecated. You shouldn't be using that anymore. Or, assumptions about what was going on, and that's an understandable limitations of vibe coding, that what they're trained on is probably primarily Stack Overflow or internal Apple code from the previous version. They're not going to release pre-release versions into the LLM until, if Siri ever gets good enough to be a supporting thing that underpins all this, then maybe that will be a point we could get to. But I mean, it's been amazing to watch you, and we're not at the point with all the other apps you've been developing yet, very quickly iterate on this, that you went from an idea you had one weekend when you were away with your family to having an app within the App Store in 12, 14 days, something like that. It's been a very, truly rapid period of development. And I think that's quite gratifying. As I said at the top, you've had an idea and you've executed on it. And what the LLM has enabled you to do is actually get you through the pain. And the pain is, I've got a bug test. Somebody wants different, this. And not all the pain points. Obviously, you're still going into, Icon Composer, and you're still doing bits and pieces that haven't got away with it. I've got to go back to an old version of macOS, and I've got to build this in a version of Xcode that I hadn't originally planned for, or whatever it is. And that's not new. I think developers have been facing that forever. You embrace the new stuff that comes along because you want to install the new Xcode that has all the new shiny in it, and then actually you can't release the app until the operating system has been released, and Xcode lags behind, and. So I think it's been an amazing journey to watch you get here, but how you've got here is because you wanted to scratch some of your own itches. So yeah, the tool to get there is new, but it's the same old process, really, that people write apps because it's solving something for them. And be that a game for your mates, be that an application that you think you were really missing or didn't do the thing you wanted it to do, it's still the same old thing. So the world-changing bit, I'm a bit about, but enabling you to go and do something that you really wanted to do, it's genuinely gratifying to see.
Yeah, and I've actually got a lot of enjoyment from it. The constant prompting I've enjoyed, play with it, iterate it, and I'm going to list about 5 other apps I've made, and they've all been used repeatedly, and I've iterated until I've got them how I want them. And then once I've got it working how I want it, it's like, right, how do I now make it into something I could release to others if I wanted to? So that's where we got to. So then I was like, well, could I make some money out of this app? Even if it's covered my Claude bill, I'd probably be super chuffed with that. So I then went off to Google Ads. I don't know if you ever used Google Ads, Google Ad Mob. It's new to me, to be honest with you, and I didn't know what else to use. So I've set up Google Ad Mob, but they wouldn't approve my account. I had no idea why. So I've turned on all the allow things, and now you get a horrible consent box when you log in to the game to play it. There is a remove ads in-app function within the app, which I've set up. And again, that was another hoop to jump through. So Google Ads, I've set them up with a campaign so that whilst you're playing, there is a small banner ad at the bottom. I'm sitting on a release right now, which every 20 moves would do a massive full screen ad. But I'm not sure I want to release it because I don't necessarily agree with it. And I'm debating, can I turn that off before I release a 1.1 update, which I've got.
At the end of the game, surely. At the end of that particular game is when.
Yeah, I think I need to change the mechanic of it. So I'm not releasing it, and I'll set on it. So setting up Google Ad Mob took a while. I don't know why. It just took ages for my account to get approved. But what I did, though, is I just cracked on submit to the store because I thought, actually, even if I get it on the store and I do the ads later, let's get it on the store because I've always fallen shy of that last hurdle. So I did get Google Ads set up. I linked it to my app account, but it's actually quite hard to link to your app account until the ad's there because it wants a link to the App Store. And you can't give it a link to the App Store until it's published, but you don't want to publish it until you had ads in it ready. So in the end, I just said, we'll just get the app published and then I'll deal with the ads bit. So that's been quite a learning curve just to get it up and running. And try it out. But again, something I've done before, a bit of the Google Ads stuff, I did try it on one other app, but I struggled to get it to demo properly, whereas this time it's working 100%, the ads are appearing. So really happy that it works at least. So the ads are in, that works, a little banner ad, and then like I said, there's an in-app purchase, a couple of quid to it, not ever see ads ever again. And we see whether that actually makes any difference. So that's where I've got to. And then what you also need to do at that point is when you submit to the App Store, you need to have a privacy policy and a sales website. So I then went and set up a sales website, which was 4b.studio, which is a domain I bought a little while ago because I used to have a company called 4b Media, and I thought I'd just reuse the 4b name. I quite liked it. So I've set up 4b.studio, and on it I've just listed Z as an app, and it's got a link to the download store. But it's got a privacy policy on there, and it's got a way if you want to get support, you can drop me an email and I will pick it up and read it. So it's just given me the bit of infrastructure I needed to get the app onto the store. But now I've got that, as I do other apps, I've got the back end, I've got the knowledge, I've got the Google Ad Mob account, I've got the website I needed, I've got the structure in place to do more, whereas you have to build all this structure before you can do anything. So that was quite challenging, to say the least, but we're getting there now. that was written with a little help from everybody's favourite Claude and a bit of BB Edit, because I do know how to make websites. And so I could just get in the code and tinker. I haven't done it for a long time, but generally quite enjoyed that process. It's a very basic website. Next stages will be to build it out so there's more pages there, so that Zed's got its own set of pages, because again, I've got to try and market this now. So whilst that was happening, I submitted the app to the App Store on the developer website. So first round, submit it, and I thought I'll just submit it, see what happens, because Apple will take ages. A couple of days later, they come back and they said, can you submit us a video of what it's like to play the game? And I thought that's why I'm submitting it to you, because you can just go and play it. But basically, the first round was they wanted to see a video of me playing the game before they would even look at it. So I did that. Then they came back and said, well, you need to submit your in-app purchase at the same time as the app so we can review both, because they both have to be approved. And I didn't know all of this. And it's the same with your marketing copy. They have to approve it. So you have to make all these changes as submissions, and then they refine and approve it all, which does seem a bit backwards to me, and they're making more work themselves. So I then, a couple more days. So basically to get the first version in the App Store took about a week. And then they approved it, which was fantastic. And what you can see in front of you is the current App Store as it is. And my battery was running out in my iPhone at the time of taking the screen grabs. But you can see the screen grabs there. It's all in there. And like I was saying to you earlier, I need to now change the screenshots, I think, so that they're not just a grab of the screen, but they're there in a frame, and I've got some text around it and some marketing text and things. But I've also gone and done other bits with it. I got Claude to make it accessible, so we put all the accessibility flags on. We're not actually collecting any data, but obviously I've got ads in there, which does go against what I want because they are collecting data. So that's all done, up and running. And then I've gone away then and gone, right, well, what could I do future versions? I've asked people and I've asked Claude. First one that came up was games. I've called it GameKit, Game Center. If ever you've used that, it pops up at the top, says you'll sign into Game Center, you get achievements, you can see what games your mates are playing. So I've put that functionality into a future build that we're going live at some point, and that's version 1.1. It's all about Game Center, and there's some menu refinements in there, and I've tried to just tighten up the screen a little bit and make it look a little bit nicer. So that's version 1.1. And then somebody else suggested, why don't you put it on the iPad? And I thought, I've not really built this game for the iPad. It was all about holding it in your hand and using your thumb. But actually, I've tried it and it works. You do it on the iPad, made it work with the keyboard, and that was an hour of prompting, and I got an iPad version. And it took an hour. Again, not released yet. I think that and the Game Center stuff will be coming in a future release. And then I think at that point, I've got a product then that I should then try and market, because it should be out there. It works. We've proven it works. It's on a few platforms. And that's really the next hurdle is, now you've done all of that, how do you now get people to download it, to use it, to leave you reviews? And I've got to work through all of that now. So we've got the website, as we've touched on. So I'm going to build the website out. Going to see if I can change my app copy in the screenshots. Do I need to go set up social media accounts, like have an Instagram account and go and like other games and do some form of advertising there? I don't know how to do this. So that's probably my next area of learning. You can submit to Apple as well to review you. And I'm using a lot of Apple stuff, so I'm hoping that would go down well, especially with Game Center. And then there's other websites you can submit to, like the review games, like Touch Arcade and things like that. So that might be an option as well. But what I want to do is get the 1.2 update out, because I think then I've got all the base level features in, and then we can send it off there. So that's the plan at the moment. That said, that's where we're at. But I've actually quite enjoyed the process, and I've done this whilst having a job and a family and podcasting with you every week, just to scratch an itch in the background.
No, I think it's really good. I mean, again, I don't think I've got much to add other than what I've already said about bringing something to market, for want of a better term. My only sort of comments, and neither of them will surprise you, is that I think you should be declaring on your website that you use AI to build it.
Yeah, I've got that in a next version, and I'm fine with that, because I'm not going to lie about that. I'm quite comfortable. I've used AI to get this far. Because
what you see whenever apps are featured on various social media forums is somebody will immediately dismiss it, going, "Is this AI slop?" And I'm not suggesting for a second you've built AI slop. You've used a tool in order to enable you to do the thing that you wanted to do. You just need to be very clear about that. That's what's been done. And you say on your website, support was given by a human. And that's
The
great.
support is given by a human.
Because it's you. It
'Cause
comes.
it's me.
Yeah, it comes to your email address, and that's great. And I think when the avalanche of money comes in, Chris, that you'll be able to pay somebody to answer your emails for you as well. But I think being very clear about that is a really useful thing, and it disarms the people that are going to knock you for what it does. And I think that's just a very useful thing to have. You're not alone in this. The vast increase in vibe-coded apps are a thing. The fact that you don't collect any data, I think, is really laudable. That's what people want to see. I mean, there could be a suggestion maybe you'd want to save people's high scores and all that kind of stuff in some way, that if they delete and reinstall the app, maybe you'd want to preserve that in some way. I don't know.
That will save in your iCloud.
Yeah.
But that's not me seeing it or what have you, or it's not synced to any third-party servers.
Again, just a nice thing to be able to offer, really, for that. So that's my thought about being very open and honest, and for all your apps that you do that, because it disarms people. If they're just expecting it, and you're very clear about, yeah, this was developed with this, but I'm not storing any data on my side. It's all on your side. What goes to advertisers on them, and you can pay for that to go away. I think is a really useful thing to have done. Marketing. I'm going to talk about this, that I think you do need to get out there, because it's all very well having, it's not like Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come. The apps don't work like that anymore. You do need to get out there and aggressively market them. And I'd say, yeah, you probably do need an X account. You probably do need a Blue Sky or a Threads or whatever it is. The other option that occurred to me as you were talking is Reddit. I think on a weekend, on a Sunday, have a featured app of the week. And you could get on there and post something about, hey, I've developed a thing. I used a bit of AI to get me there. Da 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 da. It's my own reinvention of that, and that is a community of people who will talk about it, get a bit of buzz, and at least go and check it out. And if you just move a couple of copies along, then maybe that's the snowball that gets the avalanche rolling. So you're doing all you can do, I think, but that's where it's fallen down a little bit, is I think you just need to market yourself and the time you spent on it a little bit better, and that could be an option to do it. Because at the moment, I know about it, your family know about it, maybe the odd friends knows about it. How many have you sold? You don't. Is it more than 10?
No.
Right. So
if I'd have sold 10, I'd be pretty pleased with myself.
Yeah. But that return on your investment, I think, even if you just do sell 10, that's another little badge of achievement that you've done yourself.
Yeah.
And so taking those opportunities, I almost feel it's a bit like we've done with this podcast. People listen to it, we see it in the analytics, but it's not like we're up there with ATP or anything. And I think that's not because we're not making interesting content. I think it's we fail to market the content that we've got, and that's a reflection of our lack of engagement with social media as much thing, and that's a bit of a shame. So don't let this go that route. I think get out there and market it.
Yeah, and that's the next hurdle. I'd like to say, I'm not really coding it anymore at the moment. I've got it to where I want it, so that's done. And what I now need to do is switch gears and go, right, let's get the website sorted, get the App Store copy up to date, which I've been doing. I just need to think about the screenshots, and they're on about making a movie. I'm like, where do I even start making a movie for this thing? I don't know how to do that. So and I know you've got these skills, but I've never made a other than a screen recording. Like, how do I actually make a movie with some text on it? What do I do? Where do I start? So I need to start making that kind of content, which I just haven't done before.
So through the magic of video, when you were talking about the app and you moved tiles around and you pushed them, I recorded a little video on my phone, and I'm going to build it into our video stream of this podcast. So there will be, while you're talking, the in-stream thing will play in the corner. Cool. So some to look at. So if you want some text put over that, Chris, you need only ask, and then you'll have a movie. So
But again, should I learn how to do this? Because I've not done this before, and part of me wants to learn so that if I do another app, I then know what I'm doing. Whereas this getting the app to the store's been a hurdle. Now marketing that app's going to be the next hurdle. But no, I may well be in contact for some help on that.
There's always other skills to learn is the problem. And the problem of being a one-man developer or a one-person developer is you need to do all of the things. You got to write the theme tune, sing the theme tune. You got to do all that kind of stuff. That's a reference to a terrible British comedy. But yeah, no, it's impressive. I think the reason I'm sort of pushing back a little bit on the marketing and on the use of AI to generate it is it's a nice game. It's quite a fun thing. It's to spend 3 minutes playing, 5 minutes playing, or whatever. And its inspiration is obvious with how much you love threes. So it's not a surprise that you've built something that is a bit like threes. So all good, well done, top work, that man. I think that's all I can say about it. Just get out there and don't rest in your laurels. Market the hell out of it.
Marketing's got to happen, because I've got some other apps as well. So I was just going to quickly list my other apps. So whilst I've been doing this app, I've kind of been a little bit. I don't know what the right word is. I've been a little bit busy with other apps. So I've made an app called Supersonic, which was one of the first ones I started on, which is just an MP3 playing app, which basically looks at your NAS and it will play MP3s for you. And then it got more carried away in that you can now edit the tags. You can now put the album art on it. You can now group them. You can, take a FLAC file and re-encode it to an MP3 files because I wanted them all in MP3s. I wanted to take up less space. And my son loves it. He's just downloaded it today so he can try it out with some music of his. Because he's like, I love that app, Dad. We're always using it. And we're using it on my phone. We have people over and we're picking songs. It's got random on it. It works in CarPlay. CarPlay was a whole other kettle of fish to get working. I then got it working on tvOS as well. So I've got it everywhere in my house. But now how do I get that to a position where I could offer it to others? And I've done the same then with an app called Lumen, where you take all your videos that you may have on your NAS. I really want to get my NAS working. And you just point this app at it, and you've got one centralized set of files, like your music, and it just pulls them off. You don't need to run a server. It just looks at your NAS and will play your videos on whatever Apple device you have. Then I did the same with podcasts, books, audible books, comics, an app called Hercule, which is well behind, but it's behind the rest in maturity, but it's the same concept of point it at your NAS. You can download local copies if you're going on the road, but equally you can just look at your NAS for the master library. And I've really just enjoyed it, getting to understand different file formats, like doing the videos. They're massive files. It's quite a thing when you're editing a 50 gig file to rewrite the tags, or compared to an MP3 file.
Can I jump in? Just on your description of Supersonic on your website, you say it's a great music app for managing your MP3s. I mean, that doesn't sound to me like something for playing your MP3s. Yeah. That's just
that was a bit rushed, just why I had two apps to talk about. So you're right, I probably need to change that and do a page on it, because it's a really cool app for tidying up your music library when you first start out. Like, how do I just take my MP3s that I've ripped off my CDs and actually knock them into shape so that they work and they're sortable and they look nice, and then you can then add more as you go. But I use it for playing all the time. It's all I've used for the last 5 weeks probably, is that to play all my music, and I've really enjoyed it. I then did a couple of other apps because I had so many different apps in train. I then wrote an app called Builds, which you just set the apps up in, and you can put all the different build numbers in and version numbers, so you can see which one's where. This one's out testing, this one's going to the App Store, and it just gave me that log. Originally I was using Notes for that, but it just gave me something. Then I was like, I've always wanted a Wikipedia app, so I went and made a Wikipedia app. So then all it does is you search Wikipedia, and you can save articles, so they're offline, and you can group them, and it shows you a random article, and it shows you recent search, and it looks a bit like the FT with the sepia colour and that, and it's got a serif font on it, and it's just perfect for it. It's a stupid little utility, but again, it's one I could just release as a freebie because I think it's a nice little app. It scratches a very small itch for me, but it's one I could just put out there. App I wrote today, I worked with Claude on today, was just one called Done, because we were talking about Unforgettable, a task app last week. But actually all I want on a task app is, in essence, a note that's got a name on it, and then it's got a bunch of tasks, and I just tick them off. I don't want dates by it. I just don't want any more data. I just want somewhere to quickly put a note in and tick, it's done. And so I built that today, and I've got it running on iPhone, iPad, Mac, got an icon for it, and it's up and running as a prototype, but took, 2 hours maybe just to get that done. Whereas if I did it manually, it'd be a completely different world. And then my last app was a very simple black and white photography app. So it looks a bit like the camera app, but you've just got black and white filters to pick from and your zoom lens, and that's it. And it's great just to quickly take a photo, tap to focus, take the photo, pops it in. And it's all these apps are really fast, by the way. That's one thing I've been going for, is how do we make them quick, not collect any data, not slow down, just really quick apps, and they've all achieved that premise.
And they scratch that itch that it's an app for you, and even if you're the only person that uses it, then you haven't wasted any time, you haven't wasted any money.
I'm very happy. If I sold not one app or nobody else ever downloaded one, I'll be all right with that.
Well, I think that's fine. That it's not a terrible place to be, that you're satisfied with what you're putting out. And, John Syracuse says that quite a lot about his little, his Mac apps. They're things for him to manage on his screens, and he makes a few sales for them, but he doesn't expect them to, they're not going to break the bank. And that's not a terrible place to be as an app developer. Of course, it'd be great if you sold 400 million copies of the app and you'd, 10 quid from everybody who'd bought it or whatever. But that's not what you're going for. You're not trying to change the world. You're trying to scratch an itch. And I think that's quite respectable.
Yeah, I'm not looking for this to replace my job. It's just something to do on the side. And I've actually genuinely enjoyed myself. I've had a lot of fun with it. I've done a lot of tech this year, which I hadn't done for previous years. So I enjoyed it, and I've learned a huge amount. So I would recommend it to anybody to give it a go, because it is good fun.
So app of the week, Chris?
App of the week. Oh, it's got to be Z, isn't it?
There you go. I queued you up for that. Link in the show notes.
Yeah. So there you go. Thank you, Rod.
Thanks, Chris. I think we can call that a show.
Yeah, I think so. So if anyone wants to get in contact with us, Rod is at g5menec@mastodon.scot. I'm at _CGP at mastodon.social. You can watch on YouTube if you go to wakefromsleep.com and click on the YouTube link, or you can drop us an email, wakefromsleep@protonmail.com.
Get out and buy Chris's app, everyone. Talk to you later, Chris.
Cheers, Rod.